stared at me and just said, "Vermin." Oh, that's just where Lloyd and Dan's dad watches us. I've got elderly family members that don't offer me a lot of value.
Cut them out.
So, Nan, never seen you again.
We're just a couple of business anchors. Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast. This jingle is slightly too long. This jingle is slightly too long.
It's episode 6 of the Business Anchors podcast, and in this episode we're talking about bad business advice we've received over the years, how some advice saved us from a rat infestation in our office, and why we should all be writing books even if they're terrible and we get someone else to write them for us. So lots of great advice.
Finally, you actually did the intro without mucking it up. That was like take 6.
Dan, the listeners have just heard I did it first time.
Oh, okay.
So... yeah, all good.
Yeah, we've got lots of mistakes to talk about, haven't we?
I mean, there's a mistake I need to address straight away.
Mm-hmm.
I need to make a public apology to the viewers of the podcast on YouTube and social media. I just need to apologise for my haircut. Terrible... Can
I describe it?
Yeah. Do your best description to our listeners of what my hair looks like right now.
Imagine someone with a really scruffy afro and then just shave the sides off. It's like a floppy plant sticking out the top of your head.
A floppy plant. Yeah, my wife cut my hair, and but for some reason I told her not to touch the top, so that's where I think the floppy plant.
Which was actually very bad advice, which leads us on to this episode of the podcast.
What a segue!
Which is all about bad advice, and we actually, the thing that made us think of this topic was we've just delivered our virtual Atomicon session, which was a really great virtual event run by Andrew and Pete.
Yeah, really good.
And we did this really creative session about how to grow your agency and stuff like that. And we were giving loads of advice away and listening to lots of other people's advice. And it made us think about the advice, the business advice and life advice that we've received over the last however many years. And it got us, we just randomly thought of some really funny stories of bad advice we've got, and it made us think, you know what, let's do an episode on it.
Yeah, because I think we've had so much really good advice over the years from people that we trust and people we don't even know online and that sort of thing. But I think there's lessons in the bad advice as well. Some of the bad advice we actually have taken and then realised it was bad advice. Yeah. And some of it we laughed at and saved it for this episode of the podcast.
There's some really, I know you're going to mention later in the podcast, there's some really random, hilariously bad advice that you've received about very strange things to do with cows inflating and rat infestations, and it is going to be businessy as well. There is lots of businessy stuff, isn't there?
Cows inflating. It's actually advice to stop cows from bursting.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, we were thinking about the worst advice we've had. You know, funny bad advice and genuinely bad advice. But I think some of the funniest bad advice is probably from the person who we over the years have received the best advice and the most advice from, and that's Dad Knowlton.
Yes.
Our dad. He's always been our kind of business mentor. He was the one that really encouraged us to start our own thing, supported us all along the way. We still have monthly meetings with him, keep him up to date with what's going on and take his advice. But he has come up with some absolutely brilliant bad and funny advice in the past. And I feel like I've got to mention one of my favourites first, which involves... so when we were setting up in this office for the first time, where we're filming this now, we'd been working in a spare bedroom for years, like most businesses start.
Pretending that we had a massive
little space at home
with a massive office, but it was our parents' back
room.
room.
We've got a 200 million turnover, and we're in Mum and Dad's spare room. But yeah, so we were kind of thinking about, that's great for a podcast. You're welcome, listeners.
Does it sound like a car starting?
Yeah, sorry, I need to go to the mechanic about that. Talking about how we can get settled into this new space, the kind of things we need to think about when we're no longer on our own in a spare bedroom and we actually have employees building a team in an office space. And weirdly, one of the first things that Dad said to us is, well, obviously you're going to have a no eating at your desk policy when you start employing people. And I kind of thought...
everything.
Yeah, my first thought was, firstly, I don't know why that's obvious that should be a thing. But secondly, I don't think that's a priority of the most important things we should consider when we're taking people on and building a team. And so I sort of said, Right, yeah, maybe we can talk about that, but I'm not sure I agree. But why? What's your
His
reasoning?
response was incredible.
Why do you think that we shouldn't allow our team to eat at their desks? And he just stared at me. I'm going to look into the camera for the viewers of the podcast. He stared at me and just said, "Vermin."
As if he was actually calling you
And
vermin.
for a little while I thought I'd really offended my dad, and he was just calling me vermin. And I thought, I don't know how I've offended him that much. So I thought, sorry, Dad, I don't know why I've offended you. I'd prefer if you didn't call me vermin.
Well, it was actually because he was just referring to the fact he thought if people eat at their desks, vermin will suddenly come up from out the cracks of the foundations of the building and just eat all the food.
Because if we ate around this desk, obviously none of the vermin would find us, but they live directly under our computers. I think that was his logic. So if you eat anything at your desk, they're going to pop up.
Yeah.
So I mean, I have to say, I just ate some porridge at my desk. Don't tell my dad.
But I'll be interested to know if the listeners...
How many rats are there now?
Oh my God, there's thousands. No, I'd actually be interested to know, is this like an old school thing? You listening now, if we were to say, do you think it's alright to eat lunch at your desk? Do you think vermin? Or do you think, why would you not? Let us know somewhere, because I don't know if it's just us or Dad's weird for shouting vermin.
Yeah, I still... you know when you get the giggles when you hear something?
Yeah.
Whenever you shout vermin, I can't help.
Which is a lot at you.
Yeah, obviously. All of my family do when they're not impressed with me.
Not to do with the rat story.
Oh, family goes, oh, hi, everyone. Hi, Dan. Vermin. Oh, hi, Auntie Tricia.
Oh, my God.
Right, moving on. So that's quite a funny one.
There's another one. Can I say one?
Mm-hmm. Is this bad advice from Dad?
It's bad advice from Dad, yeah.
Oh, lots.
No, can I just to caveat things? Dad, I know you're listening. You've given us so much good advice, but the bad advice is more funny to talk about.
Genuinely, 99% of all the advice we've had from Dad has helped us grow our business, and there is no way we'd be where we are.
Anyway, let's get to the
business.
funny.
But obviously,
stuff.
that's not funny to talk about, Dad. So
another, I think another piece of advice. Again, it's revolving around the office, our new office space. When we moved in, he had this view that we should install cameras to watch our staff.
Well, no. I think you're being harsh on Dad.
Oh, okay, go on.
Because he didn't want cameras to watch our staff.
All right.
But I think Dad's very risk averse in his business, probably more so than you, definitely more so than me. But was very keen on security when we got this place. So he sort of said, obviously there's going to be cameras.
Yeah.
And again, it was that
externally that kind of
sort
makes
of
sense.
moment of. Firstly, I thought, obviously.
Yeah.
Is it obvious? Yeah, and I thought, outside, obviously, because if you have a burglary or someone acting dodgy outside, you can see them. They said, no, you need it inside. You know, what if something goes missing? And I was, right, okay. And we just sort of, after we made our comment, I think Dad straight away realised that it wasn't a great idea when we said, it just might be, because he was saying, I can monitor the security for you if you want me to.
Imagine like a new employee in a meeting.
And his friend, one of Dad's friend, owns a security company, so they were, they could handle it.
They'd be watching everyone.
That made sense, but we just said, imagine when we grow our team and there's a camera in the corner of a room, a new employee starts and asks someone else, oh, what's that camera for? and they say, oh, that's just where Lloyd and Dan's dad watches us. I think that. And when we said that, Dad did realise, that sounds strange.
I think the memorable bit that stuck in my head was just Dad watching people on the camera. So you're right. He didn't actually start the conversation saying, I want to watch your star.
No.
It just ended up like that. We turned it into that.
Yeah, that's what we said. It would look like you are spying on our staff. But so we negotiated it, and we've got a Ring doorbell. So we've got in case anyone's listening thinking they haven't installed a security system, they'd be great to burgle. We've actually got
very good security,
high security in here. We've got alarms, dogs, stuff,
rats.
Definitely vermin.
Another, I know we're on a theme of Dad. Dad's he's going to love this because he loves us speaking about him, but it's probably not in the best way. But
we'll have to have an episode where we just talk about all the brilliant.
I want to bring him on to an episode. If you want our Dad to come on an episode, he's a really cool, nice guy. Then tell us and we'll get him on.
Or we won't if he refuses.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Exactly. But the other thing, there's a couple of less sort of out there bits of bad advice. One of the things he advised us initially was, I think, around sort of not hiring anyone, because I think he's built his sort of consultancy around rather than hiring a team, he's got a very trusted group of associates with all individual specialities, and he's never, because there's a lot of risk and stress that comes with hiring people.
Yeah.
And I think I'm very much like him. You're very good at, managing the team and thinking bigger like that. And initially I sort of thought, oh God, I don't want to hire anyone. That's just seems like a lot of work and stress. But then our whole strategy is to hire and build a team. So I think all of this advice, some of you may be listening thinking, yeah, I completely agree. I would never hire anyone. And I think a lot of it is subjective. It's not like...
Yeah. Do you know what? I called, well, you know this, Dan, but for the listeners, I actually called Dad before this episode, and I thought, we've planned to speak about some mistakes, mistakes and bad advice. And I thought, better actually check he doesn't mind us telling these funny stories. But he did say, his response, which I thought made perfect sense, was, well, you're saying it's bad advice, but that's just subjective, isn't it?
Yeah, is that what he said?
Yeah, and I kind of thought, oh yeah. So Dad and a lot of other people can listen to the bad advice we're saying and think
that's brilliant advice.
That's great advice, and I think in some contexts it really is.
Yeah. Some of the things are just really shit advice.
Yeah.
That we're going to come onto.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's some other stuff not from Dad that's terrible advice, but it's definitely subjective. So let us know. I mean, you may like Vermin.
I think one final thing from that I remember, just as we're on the theme of Dad, about when we started out, was to do with not giving your best advice away for free. I remember when I started, I was very much was a Gary V super fan and just watched all of his stuff and read his book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, and like give loads of stuff away and just to try. And I just followed that theory. But when I initially started creating content that shared all that away, I remember Dad saying, "What on earth are you doing? You can charge people for that. Why are you giving it all away for free?" But now I think he's very much on board now, because he realised that we've built a whole business and a team, and
we've built our audience, and that's how we get leads for our business. Because we've been giving free advice away to show what we know. But I was thinking about this, and it actually does show that Dad's saying that. I think before social media, that probably would have been good advice, because I think for years you wouldn't. I mean, if someone called you, if you're a consultant, someone called you and said, "Oh, I was wondering what you think about this," you wouldn't just tell them everything over the phone, because then they'd have no reason to pay you.
Yeah.
But I think now with social media, because if you don't give that advice,
so readily available,
there's somewhere on the internet that they can get it. Probably 100 places on the internet that they can get it. So, but back in the day, I do think that probably was good advice. So it makes sense. But I'm glad, because Dad's really good at business now. He knows that and actually for his own business, he's now doing that, isn't he? And giving stuff away and has plans to do that. So well done, Mark Norman Knowlton. And thank you for all your advice, Dad. I mean, some of this podcast for listeners, Dan, we should probably stop talking about our dad. I don't know what you think.
Yeah.
But is there... we haven't done the drink, Dan.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, we've got the great part of our podcast every time where the listeners really like us opening and sipping a drink. Why haven't we done that yet?
This is going to be a short segment, because we've actually had this drink before, Lloyd, but I just fancied one, and it was the only thing in the fridge. So we've got this was actually from episode 1. If you haven't listened to the other episodes of the podcast, there's another 5 episodes that they should listen to. This is from episode 1.
Dan, I just have to say, this has got a really satisfying opening noise, so I think we need to do it for the listeners.
You do yours first, and then I'll do.
Okay.
Whose is better? Right, this is Lloyd.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
This is me. Whose is better? Vote below.
Yeah, let us know.
Oh, we haven't said what it is, have we?
No, you haven't done. I mean, you're doing really badly with this segment.
Bundaberg, ginger beer, classic.
So I've got mixed emotions about this, Dan. Firstly, I feel negative towards you because you've made absolutely no effort in this segment. You've just repeated a drink that's just in our drinks fridge every single day. And I also feel positively because I love Bundaberg ginger beer. So,
well, I promise next time. Last time you just got one out of the fridge, something else out of the fridge. So.
Dan, come on, don't ruin the magic. No, I definitely didn't. Right.
Nice.
Let's move on to the main part of this episode, or this part of this episode. We're going to be sorting out the worst pieces of business advice we've ever had, and not just from our dad, from everyone we've had business advice from. and we're going to sort this and rank it
Okay.
into a tier list. If you're down with the kids and on YouTube, you'll see tier lists. They're really cool, but Dan's never heard of them. So we're going to sort it into 5 categories once we discuss it.
Okay.
So the worst. Oh, actually, we'll start with the best. So one category could be good advice.
Oh, okay. You're going upwards.
Yeah,
so this is the best, and
yeah.
it gets worse. Yeah.
The category up is below par advice.
Mm-hmm.
Category 3, advice that's a bit shit.
Yep.
I really got creative with these names. And go up a level again, epic business failure.
Wow. It's going a bit more.
And then the top level goes into a section called bankruptcy advice.
Oh,
so
yeah.
take this, you're going to lose everything. So, yeah, I mean, I came up with this brilliant format. So,
well done, Lloyd.
So, Dan, have you got any bad, to start us off?
Yes.
Give me your worst business advice.
Okay, so we've got to be careful. We're definitely not going to name many names because that's not very nice and we don't like trying to bring people down. So I'll tell a brief story, not naming any names or giving any clues away. But I remember I was at an event it must have been about 3.5 years ago. Someone else in the sort of marketing world. And I remember speaking to them and they'd just released a book. And we were talking about writing a book, and I was like, "Oh, it must have taken ages to write a book. Like, it's always something I've sort of thought in the future that'd be great to do." And he said, "No, just write a book. All you got to do, don't even write yourself. Just outsource it. Get a virtual assistant or someone to just write the book, print it, and all you need to do is write a book, and then that positions you as an expert." And I just at the time I thought, why would I want to write a book? Well, not even write a book. Pretend to write a book that just has writing from someone else that is nothing to do with me. And I just think that was really shit advice.
I think because I get where he or she is coming from, because I think they are thinking a lot of people perceive authors to be very credible if they've got something good enough to write a book about. Because a lot of people's perception, if you have written a book, then you must have something decent to say. So I know where he's coming.
I think if you write
he or she is coming from.
I think if you write a good book, that's good advice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So this, for me, is the classic short-term rather than long-term thinking in business. So short-term, someone will see my name on a book and think, "God, he must be good." So maybe my first time meeting that man or lady, I think, oh, that's interesting. They've written a book about this. They must be an expert. Whereas the long-term is, say I actually read that book and it's not good because they haven't put in any effort, got someone else to read it, then my perception of them is just terrible. So and also then word spreads. Oh, you read that person's book? Yeah, it was rubbish.
Yeah,
I just don't see how in long term that's going to help you.
There are very credible people that I trust that give the good advice, like Daniel Priestley. I think part of his Key Person of Influence training program, which we've worked with people who've been on it, and lots of people sing its praises. A big part of that is he says you need to write a book to position yourself as an expert. And I agree in the sense of writing a good book, like we've mentioned. But just outsourcing a shit book to say you've written a book is just...
Yeah, I agree, because I 100% think writing a book could be a good thing.
I want us to write a book. We should write a book, Lloyd.
Yeah.
I don't know what it would be on, but...
Well, that's why you need to work on this idea.
Why don't we just outsource it to a VA or something?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, and just so we get the credibility of being authors.
That's mine. That's my first one.
Yeah, I've got one.
Wait, we're not putting it on the list.
Oh, I forgot the brilliant ranking system.
Yeah, go on.
So just getting someone to write a shit book for you to try and make you sound credible.
I don't think it'll make you bankrupt.
I think it's middle of the road. I just think it's advice that's a bit shit. Because you could get some short-term wins of someone that they make a decision in your favour because they think, he's or she is credible.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So advice that's a bit shit.
Cool.
So let's hear, what have you got, Lloyd? Give me some shit advice. Come on.
So I've got, this is from someone that
don't name names, Lloyd.
I've seen a lot online, and this is actually public advice that they gave out.
Okay.
And I won't say it word for word because then you could just Google it and find out who said it. But they basically said something, and I've seen other people with this kind of messaging before. But it's basically, if people around you aren't delivering value for you, helping you in a way, or giving you stuff, just cut them out. Cut them out of your life. They're not worth it. And I get the reasoning. So it's like,
Surround yourself with the five best. That's a good advice.
That makes sense. You're trying to get better, so surround yourself with people that are giving you value, not people that are going to bring you down. Yeah, I get that. But I've got elderly family members that don't offer me a lot of value.
Cut them out.
So, Nan, never seen you again. Yeah, I just think it's a horrible way to think. If you are just going to look for the things in your life and the people that are going to give you stuff.
It's quite a selfish way of...
Yeah, and I understand it could help you get up the ladder in things and improve, but I just think as a whole, it means you're going to be a worse...
And I'm going to disagree with you a bit here.
Oh.
Well,
Dan doesn't want to see Nan.
No, I do, Nan. I know you don't have to listen to podcasts, but I totally agree with the... You are the average of the people you hang around, the 5 people you hang around, or on that kind of level. Because I think if you're, I've noticed like being self-aware and noticing my behaviour. If I hang around with people that aren't sort of motivated and want to achieve something in life, whether it's health, wealth, happiness, all that stuff, whatever it is. Then if I'm surrounding myself with those people, then I feel like I should be working harder to achieve those things or to do better in the world or whatever. Yeah. Like even I think you, like your saving the world thing, that being a good person and stuff. I think I'm probably like 2% of as good as you, but I think even you doing that makes me think that, and even you being a vegetarian. I mean, I still eat meat, but it does make me sometimes, like in the past, I've got vegetarian stuff because I've thought, oh yeah, Lloyd gets vegetarian stuff, I'll do that.
Yeah, so it makes sense that the things around you influence and the people around you influence what you do and the actions you take in your behaviour.
But just cutting people out if they don't give you value, then it's
I think
so. We're in agreement, I think.
Yeah, I think with that attitude, you're going to end up a lonely, sad person, but you might be more successful financially. But what are you going to spend it on?
So where does
no one else? Unless they add value.
Cut them out. Where does that come on the ranking
list?
Well,
I think it can't be bankruptcy advice because we just said it might make you financially more successful. Yeah. But I think it's got to be an epic business failure.
Yeah.
It's
business failure because you could be very successful in business.
But I think long term, people really aren't going to want to support you when they see that you just cut people out. If
really horrible people that just focus on business aren't successful, like Donald Trump. Doesn't not successful. I'm joking.
Yeah, but do you want to be like that?
No, exactly.
So
exactly.
Epic business failure. Yeah. Let's stick it in there.
We'll go for epic business failure.
Cool. Okay. What's your next one?
Another one. This is. And everyone would have heard this, the whole all PR is good PR, which I just think, it just got me thinking, like, if you sold aloe vera drinks, we've spoken about the people that sell aloe vera drinks, for example, and the local newspaper found that your aloe vera drinks contain rat poo or something like that.
Because they've been eating at their desk.
Yeah, because they put the aloe vera drinks under your desk. Yeah.
Oh, they've been putting the drinks under my desk.
Exactly.
So it's got rat poo in.
And the rats and the vermin pooed everywhere.
Yeah.
Then that's not going to be good PR, is it? Like the whole all PR is good PR is just, I think it's a load of tosh because imagine if you were found out to be being a very horrible person and.
But also, so you've got people in this world. So Katie Hopkins comes to mind, and people like, in my opinion, Piers Morgan, who spout out stuff because they know the more controversial, even if they don't really think it. Or they spout out this horrible stuff because they know it gets them attention, and then they make money from that attention. So, in those kind of instances, I kind of do think that all good PR is good PR. I guess financially makes sense again.
If you just want attention, but we could go out in the street and just shout
marketing,
or
you mean shout something horrible
stuff. Yeah. And people are going to look at us, but we're not thinking, oh, that's good for our business if we go and shout.
Yeah, well, everyone knows about us because of that thing that we've got a trial for to go to prison. But and the phone stopped ringing. What's going
on? But I know what you mean about Piers Morgan. I follow him, and it's weird because you kind of start to get obsessed with seeing what he says because it's so crazy and like about this whole COVID thing. He's tweeting every day and he's just saying, it's almost as if he's pleased when he sees more people have died because he's sort of like,
it's just horrible. I actually used
to
follow Piers Morgan on Twitter like millions of people do. And I actually just unfollowed him there, and I've stopped, if I see anything with him in it, I've stopped listening because I've realised now that he isn't someone that's trying to add value to society in any way by helping. He's someone who will say the things that will get the most attention to make the most money. So I think in anything that kind of corrupts what they're saying, and you can never really trust what they're saying, or even if they
because
agree
they've
with
got an
what they're
ulterior
saying.
motive.
So
I also like but I found it interesting, the Katie Hopkins video thing. How many months ago? Josh Peterson. Josh Peters, a YouTuber. He basically did this whole YouTube video where he flew Katie Hopkins out to a country as if she was, and pretended she was winning an award. And it was a big prank, and it ended up the award was called something that spelt out a really horrible swear word beginning with C. And they took a photo with her there.
If you do want to listen to part 2 of this, by the way, we'll see you next Tuesday.
There you go.
Because it'll be live then.
Yeah, there you go, that one. So, but it's actually, when I was watching it, I thought, this is a horrible thing to do to a human being. Actually make them believe they've won an award, fly them somewhere, get actors involved, and then when you see her speech to accept the award, then all of that goes because she's incredibly racist and horrible and just says some terrible things because she thinks she's in a private scenario with people who are fans of hers.
I think when you see someone, they think they're in a situation where they're around people that think the same as them.
They're comfortable,
that was really horrible to see how she was talking in,
imagine
even worse than what you see in public.
Yeah, she sort of felt comfortable, and they would,
And I've actually, politics aside, I've also got a friend that, or friend of friend or relative, just so you don't know who it is, or just acquaintance, that works somewhere where Nigel Farage's family go to a lot, and I've heard some stories, first-hand stories of the very racist jokes that they like to tell a lot.
Oh, really?
So it's quite interesting when you hear, again, when they're around people that they're comfortable with. But we obviously don't want to alienate anyone that has any political view. So we still respect you if you have different opinions to ours.
Yep.
But yeah, so it is interesting. And I don't know how we've got to this from all good PR.
All PR is good PR. Where do we rank that in the?
I just think it's a bit rubbish, because some kind of average PR, if it was like not terribly bad but not good, it could be good.
Yeah.
But I just think
we'll put that as advice that's a bit shit.
Yeah, I think it's a bit shit.
So come on, what have you got? Give us some more goodies.
I think around how people really try and encourage other people to invest heavily in their own personal development. Now, this is a bit weird because obviously for anyone it's a positive thing to improve what you're doing, learn new things and that kind of thing. But I think a lot of people try and encourage, especially in business, people to pay for loads of these online courses to really up their game, what they're doing. And I think
invest in yourself.
Yeah, there is a positive side to this.
Of course, there's a positive side to investing in yourself.
Yeah, but the result of this advice, I think, from what I've seen in the majority of cases, is that people get into a routine of paying for expensive courses to invest in themselves. And that makes them feel like they're making really good investment into their business, but then just getting into a routine of buying more courses and never doing anything with what they're learning.
Are they the courses where you see a video of someone with a Lamborghini and books in their garage? Like, you could do this.
In the last 30 days, I've made 40k selling owls. It's like, oh, great, yeah. I want to learn how to make 40k selling owls. Yeah.
I've actually, there's a new version of that, which I've seen on Mike Winnett's videos, getting targeted with. And it actually made me watch it, which is interesting. It's a guy taking the mick out of that, but actually selling a course.
Oh God, it's like Inception.
No, he actually comes out of a normal car like, oh my God, look at my new car, look at my car. No, I'm not one of those people. This is a normal car. This is a normal house, but I'm financially free.
And then he says
the same stuff. Yeah, so I just think, that's exactly right. I think it's important to invest in your like for example, us. We've paid to go to events and things, but a lot of the learning we've done is through free content and doing it.
And also helping other people who have skills who can then help us back for free. We're offering advice on what we're experts in. And then we've had some of the world's experts in certain things help us with stuff for free because we've given them value. Yeah. So I think that kind of thing's really useful as well.
Yeah.
But obviously investing in yourself's good. So I'd say this is probably, I'd rank this in below par advice. It's not the worst of the worst, but and also it's one of the ones that Dan came up with and I just nicked to talk about.
Oh, brilliant! Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
So. I'll just do the hard work for this podcast.
Yeah, that's all right. Cheers, mate.
Another one is that I think a lot of advice a lot of people give that I really don't believe in is the whole you know, even in times like this, cutting your prices. Just cut your prices. Do a sale. When I just don't think that's gonna, like, we've even spoken about this. You know, pivot. How should we pivot in these times when we can't do certain things? And I think it devalues you, what you do, and you as a brand, if you just start knocking out, you know, 50 quid videos or
because we had a genuine talk about this kind of thing recently, where we were discussing which way to go, and because of what's going on with COVID-19 and everything, how it looks like we're going to go into quite a deep recession in the UK and things. We're trying to plan for every eventuality, like I think most good business owners would be doing. So planning for the absolute worst, planning for the best, and everywhere in between. And we were saying, you know, if we're at the worst and we've got no work coming in, we were sort of saying, well, could we offer some stuff at cost to ourselves, basically not making a profit, and
so we can pay it,
and so we can pay some bills and try and make sure we get through. And obviously, at points that there's going to be if this goes on for 2 years and we don't make any money, we'll probably have to really lower our prices. But we were kind of saying, if we do that now, if we suddenly devalue what we offer,
as the people that knock out cheap videos.
Yeah, because we don't want. We understand that there's a place for lower cost services, and when businesses are starting out, they've got lower budgets and that kind of thing. But we obviously what we are really happy with is that we try to offer really high value product and offer high value to our clients.
That have a trackable
and there's no
return
point just now going, but now we'll do it for 50 quid. Because long term, again, I think
it going deeper into that conversation, because I think people like it when we actually give a bit more detail around, like Lloyd and I always go for these long walks to discuss ideas and things. And when we were talking about this, we were talking about this idea to create these lower cost videos and things. And then I remembered back to when we were running masterclasses here, and all of our promotion was about us running these masterclasses, when really it was a small part of our business. Yeah. And then every time we met anyone, they sort of said, "Oh, you're the guys that run LinkedIn masterclasses." Yeah. When really we'd ran 2, and you know, it was a tiny amount of revenue compared to the bigger brand stuff we're doing, and we started to get known for running these LinkedIn masterclasses. And then that's when we revamped our whole business to attract the top 10%, which was a topic we actually talked about in our talk at Atomicon, Lloyd, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks. I'll give you a bit more of an insight.
That's all right, mate.
Attracting the top 10%. What a great podcast. Yeah, Lloyd, what's your comment? Yeah. Vermin. So anyway, attracting the top 10%. He's always laughing.
I'm sorry. I'm just so good at podcasts. I'm really making myself laugh. That I was literally
itching for you to have some input there.
I could tell. Dan spoke for so long that I could tell he was running out of breath and really needed me to say something insightful. And I think for the first time in the podcast, I just said one word and then didn't really.
Great at podcasting.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, shall I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. This attracting the top 10% was a key takeaway from our talk at the Atomicon session.
Yeah.
Just to do growing your agency is about looking at your customers and analysing which ones pay you the most for what you do, and which ones do you enjoy working with the most, and then kind of overhauling your whole marketing to attract more of those customers and that types of work. So for example, for us, we've got skills in a variety of things. We can make websites, we can do training, we can do videos, we can set up big brand social campaigns for brands. So we overhauled all of our marketing, and you'll see with everything we do, we talk a lot about the big brand work we're doing, because that's what we want to do more of. So trying to give it an actual actionable takeaway in the podcast rather than Lloyd just saying, if you want to start attracting more of the right customers, you should analyze your customers using the top 10% table, which just looks at what's your day rate for delivering the work, or how much money are you earning from those customers, and how much do you enjoy working with them, and try and find the happy medium, and then overhaul all of your marketing to talk more about attracting those. So Lloyd, what interesting insights have you got to add to this?
Yeah. Well, no, I'll just summarize. And say a bit more than but yeah, I think we considered that low cost option. Basically, you know, it's like if you're selling products, putting on a sale, right? We need to get some money. Let's put on a sale quick. But obviously, actually sticking with what you're trying to do, adding value and offer a really good service, I think long term is always, for most businesses, is always going to be, if you know that what you're offering is worth a certain value, I think it's going to be a mistake to really, really lower those prices.
I think it does also depend on your scenario. Yeah. We fall into that trap when we give advice, and all of us, and I do as well, where we give advice based on our own experiences. Like, we've grown our agency using this certain journey and these certain strategies, and we got to the world, hey everyone, this is how we've done it, you should do it like this. When really, for certain people, that's not the best advice. There's other approaches you can take. So I certainly think that every bit of advice you hear in this, and you hear from anyone, you should constantly be taken with a pinch of salt. Because
I keep laughing at myself when I say but I think that's really important, and that was why we wanted to talk about bad business advice and why we thought this would be a good topic, because a lot of people hear advice on podcasts like this, at events like Atomicon that was really good that we were involved with this week. And they take everything as gospel and follow that advice blindly. And I think the biggest thing to think of is, firstly, who you're listening to. So like Dan said, we've got our own biases. So we've got certain opinions and certain values that all of our advice is going to align with, to do with what's happening in the past, what action we want our audience to take as well, although we try not to be like that.
Subscribe
now to the Business Anchors podcast. And I just think it's really, really valuable to take a look at the advice and just think, actually, do I agree with that? Do I think that this is a piece of advice that I should really act on right now? Or should I think about this for a little while and really think about why that person's giving that advice? Have a look into the background of that person or those people, see what they've achieved, and if they're kind of taking their own advice. Even you might be listening to this podcast, all three of you, thinking, oh, I really like those guys, I definitely want to listen to their advice. But for you three, it might not be the best advice.
I do think there's, just on this point, I really want to bring this up, because do you remember that time in your life where you told me the story, and it actually really was so interesting, that university story where like Lloyd is very different to me in the sense that now working together, he questions everything. Like if like, to me, sometimes if things are done a certain way, I sort of think, oh, that's a good way to do that. Whereas Lloyd's constantly like, why are we doing that way? And then I remember probing you and sort of asking you about it, and you told me this story. So tell us the story, Lloyd.
So I keep saying it's really annoying me now. I went to university, and if you don't know this already, I trained to be a primary school teacher.
What happened there, Lloyd?
So sit down on the carpet and listen for story time. So I didn't get much from university, I have to say. I really didn't put the effort in.
You spent all your money on Domino's.
Spent all my money on vodka and Domino's pizza. But there's one small thing that and obviously I'm not currently a primary school teacher, so that was a bit of a waste of time. But there's one thing that I think...
It only costs like 30 grand.
Yeah, it's fine. But I honestly think this one thing made it all worthwhile, and it was one lecture, one of the only ones I was at. And it was right at the start of my university course, and it was about critical thinking. So I think in reality it was just supposed to be advice with writing essays and things. So when you're reading research or reading articles and things, you should always read it and then be critical of the point that's being made. So question, why is that the case? Why is this person saying this? What could be the opposing argument to this, and would that have any value? And from that point, it's honestly changed. No, this sounds like, can we put some emotional music in the background? Do. It's honestly changed every aspect of my life since that point in 2010. Oh yeah, I'm that old. Oh shit. I just said 2010. I thought that must be wrong. Nope.
Lloyd is 42, if you don't know.
2010, and everything that I read, everything I see on TV, everything that people tell me, I don't just listen and think, oh yeah, great. I question where that opinion or that fact, in inverted commas, has come from, and then make my own judgment. And if I'm not clever enough to make my own judgment, looking up information, different places to make my own judgment. And I think Dan gets annoyed in our business sometimes because... So there's a lot of things that every business or everyone in our industry does. So sometimes Dan will say, oh, should we do that thing? And I straight away am just like, why would we do that? and then Dan says all the good stuff of why we do it, and then I say all the stuff of why we shouldn't do it. I think,
and then we do it.
Yeah, but it's really. I think when there's a lot of people that, especially on social media, they read things, and then they tell everyone they know. So they read a headline, a Daily Mail headline thing saying, rubbing Lego on your head cures cancer. Yeah. And then they tell everyone, have you heard the thing about rubbing Lego on your head? And that is...
I think we're all conditioned as humans. It's like the whole, why the media is so powerful, because I feel like we're conditioned that if we see something from something we consider credible, it's the whole fake news thing, isn't it? We in our mind consider that, we make a judgment as to how credible that is, and then we will repeat that without having the trail of thought that you've got, which is why I think the way you think now is so important, because you're constantly, and it is not frustrating for me. I don't just come up with shit ideas all the time, and Lloyd's like, oh no, you're just trying to copy everyone. I do have good ideas as well.
No, most of them are good ideas, but I still question them to make sure that they're good ideas. I think that's the point. Not just, because this is what people do.
It's the actually asking yourself when you're making a decision, why? And then if your answer is, well, that's what, and bigger businesses do.
This is exactly what frustrates my dad about me. So he said, obviously you're not going to have a eating at your desk policy. And just how my brain works, because of that moment in 2010, straight away I think, why would that be a thing?
But he had a reasonable answer.
Obviously he had a perfect answer.
Vermin.
Vermin. And that leads us on to, I want to do something a bit different with this podcast. So we want to get you guys involved on the next episode. So I really want to see the most creative, if you're listening on an Apple device, the most creative reviews you can leave us. But I want you to secretly include vermin in it. But I want someone to read this review and not know that we've told you to put the word vermin in it. I want to see the most creative ideas you can. Yeah. Unless it's going to be a negative review, then it's fine for you to just stop listening. But we'll be in the next episode. We're going to read out our favourite ones, or just the two that have been left. Either way. So, like the previous Robbie Knox episode that was bloody brilliant, this is a two-parter, and in part 2, we're going to be sharing some good advice that's completely changed my life. I've just realised we've just done that bit. We're supposed to do that in part 2, so Dan's completely mucked up this whole thing.
Sorry, go on.
Let me just start again. Yeah. In part 2, we are going to have a bad business advice speed round to see who can give the worst advice. And this is probably my favourite discussion of this whole podcast.
Go on.
We're going to let you know how you can prevent cows from bursting. See you in part 2.